Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Nigel here with you with part 27 finally of this big bad buff build for beginners. Now as you can see, I have actually scribed those escape doors in the roof or in the roof of the cockpit, and you can see that black line there. That is just a hint of what was there before, or what I scribed before, and then we've got rescribed lines in there. It's not perfect, but it is pretty much equidistant, and I'm kind of happy with how it's come out. I also noticed I had a bit of a seam crack in there, so I've actually scribed that seam down the centre of the fuselage, and I've put some super glue in it just to sort of fill it really. I'm not sure if it's actually coming apart or if it was just sinkage, but hopefully it's not coming apart. But anyway, the windscreen that'll hold it all together. So next thing we need to do now is get this all primered and everything, but before we can do that we just need to check around and make sure we've done all our filler work, we've done all our scribing, we've got all this area back here all done. Make sure that we've got all our panel lines all sorted. Obviously we're going to give it a degrease, make sure that all the panel lines under here are okay. We've got our Bombay doors done, and also we're going to have to mask up our undercarriage because we don't want to go painting that black, and we're just going to shove some paper tissue down in here just to block off those holes. I would normally use a lump of foam, but one, I can't find any, and two, what I worry about with using a block of foam is it may just fall in, because this fuselage is all open front and back, so it may just fall in. So if I use paper towel, it's less likely to fall in because it doesn't have any mass, and it will just, you know, it will just stay there by nature of the fact that it always wants to expand and push itself out. So if we take some paper towel and just rip this piece in half, I'm guessing this will be big enough. I should be able to just shove that in there, and that will stay put. The other thing with paper towel, if it doesn't stay put, we could wet it and get it out somehow. But that's good enough. I'm not too worried about getting perfect edges and stuff because we're going to redo all those anyway. So let's screw this up a bit less tightly. Excuse me, as soon as I put the camera on, my voice goes dry, my throat goes dry, my voice goes, and I start coughing. Bloody, what's going on? Sit here talking to myself all day. I can assure you I've just done that scribing on that cockpit roof, and I was going to film it. I can hardly talk here. I was going to film it, but I can tell you I was doing a lot of talking there, but it was a lot of unpleasant words I was using, so I didn't film it. I don't like scribing at all. It's my least, it's probably scribing and riveting is probably my least favourite parts of modelling. I can't stand it. I find it's just, oh no, just don't enjoy it at all. Got Jess here underneath me legs playing with something or other. She's probably trying to eat her bed again, which is what she does on a regular pastime, for a regular pastime should I say. Anyway, I hope you're all well guys, hope all's all good. So I've been away from this, I got distracted with the Titanic stuff, and also as some of you will know I've had my issue with my eyes, which I think is pretty much cured now. Just got some itchiness about them, so yeah, hopefully all gone, or on the way anyway. So I've got a roll of masking tape here. I can't find my other roll. Where's that one gone? Strange. I had a couple of cheap rolls of masking tape, and one of them seems to have disappeared. But I use the cheap stuff when I can because basically it's cheap. I'm going to remove some of the tack from behind that, and I'm just going to roughly wrap this around the undercarriage leg like so. And what I'm trying to show you here, without trying to bore you to death, is I'm just trying to show you that basically you don't need to be too neat and perfect with this at this stage, because what we're going to do is come in afterwards with our little bits of narrower Tamiya tape or Mr. Hobby tape or whatever, and we're going to go round and tidy everything up. So comments, obviously I've had a few people asking if I've got fed up with this and would I be coming back to it. The answer is no, I'm not fed up with it. I'm absolutely a buff nut, as you know, but even I can get too much of a good thing. So As you know, I've been doing all my work on Model Collect parts. I've been doing all the resin casting. I'm beginning to think that's probably a lot of reason for my eyes playing up, was all the resin, because you know, doing it sat here at my modelling bench and then sitting in the room modelling and then sitting in the same room later on the computer, it is still going to stand up. So yeah, I think that's probably hasn't helped at all. So along with all the dust and everything, I think that's probably my own stupid fault. So I'm going to get my 10mm Mr. Hobby tape here, and I'm just going to take a couple of pieces and we're going to put that down in there like so. Just wrap that around, and then with a small screwdriver or something we can just stuff that in there. And as you can see, we do not need perfection. That I think is going to be good enough. We'll just put a little piece down in that gap. What I do, if I stick it on the top here first, and then I can push it down in. Okay, and remember, we're going to be priming this with black. So we'll get it primed in black, and that will be that. And that will be like our base coat then. I've had somebody commented about was I aware that the Vietnam era B-52Ds were all very glossy. I'm sure they were when they came out of the factory, but I can't find a picture of a glossy one actually in service. And as I want to do this weathered with all the very, very matted upper surfaces and everything, I'm not going to be too concerned about having a glossy finish. The other problem is a lot of people, and I'm not trying to be condescending to anyone at all here, not in the slightest, but a mistake a lot of people make, they look at, even model manufacturers, they look at restored aircraft and go from there. Now, a restored aircraft may well be painted in a very high gloss black, because the high gloss will, the water will run off it, it won't stain so easy, you won't get oil stains or marks on it. It will basically resist aging a lot better than a matte colour would, because as we all know, a matte paint, although I don't think it strictly is, it kind of gives the impression of being porous. So that could be why museum, you know, particularly outside, which most B-52s are outside, it could be why they're actually done with a high gloss. But no, I agree. I know that even on the colour call-outs they call for like a semi-gloss, but this one's going to be a kind of just off matte, because I want it dulled down and well used and beaten up. So there we go. Go on and do that last one, then I'll come back. Alright, so just going to give the fuselage a degrease now. Got my bottle here. This is an old Mr. Colour thinner bottle. Always clearly mark your bottles. This is IPA. I've got another one here which is cellulose. Always clearly mark your bottles, because basically if you did this with cellulose thinners you'd probably ruin your model. Cellulose thinners will dissolve plastic, so you have to be very careful. But just going to give this a very quick sort of degrease really. A lot of people are very, can I say, anal about this. They will build a model completely with cotton gloves, whatever, because they don't want to get skin grease on it. I tend not to be that worried about it. If you watch some modelers, they don't even wash their sprues. You know, I generally do. You know, it's, you pay your money, it takes your choice. I wash my hands before I model. I don't actually I never have like something to eat, like a couple of biscuits or a packet of crisps, and then pick up a model because you've got greasy fingers. I generally wash my hands before I do any modelling, and particularly before I do any painting, because some of this size you need to handle it. You know, I could put a glove on. In fact, I've got some here, you know, just to sort of satisfy those that are more fussy than I. And so yeah, I could put a glove on, and then when I handle it, I'm not actually putting any skin grease on it or whatever. And also it saves me painting my hands black. So I'm going to give this an initial coat of primer with this one, the one shot, basically because it doesn't stink. It's cold out today, so I don't want to open the windows. I don't want all the, you know, the the extractor fans and everything, so I'm going to try and use something that doesn't smell too bad, and I think this will be okay. We can spray this straight out of the airbrush without any thinning or anything, so it's going to be no fuss and faff. It dries quite quickly, it sticks quite well. It's not quite as good as your solvent based primers, it never will be. You know, something like this Fine Surface Primer Black from MRP is amazing, really good stuff. And then you've also obviously got your Mr. Surfacers as well, but the trouble with those, they're all solvent based and they stink, and I don't want to be spraying that indoors today. So what I'm going to do is get my airbrush. Okay, so a bit of faff there. I've got my airbrush now, about 20 psi. I've got a 0.3 needle in here, which really could be a bit bigger for this stuff, but you know, hey ho. Basically, just going to paint this on. Really, it's no real art to it or anything. Just going to do it in long, easy strokes. Build it up in layers. I'm not going to try and put a massive. You can see it's starting to clog. Probably the airbrush needs a strip and clean, to be honest. But I'm not going to worry about that when all we're doing is a primer. I'm going to have to give it a full strip and clean when we come to do the Viejo paints, because we know that stuff is fussier than the fussiest thing on a fussy day. Yeah, I'm spraying this now. I've got the trigger pulled right back, and it's clogging up for a pastime. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to strip it and clean it, which is a real shame, because I'm going to have to strip it and clean it again before we do the Mr. Fussy Viejo rubbish stuff. So let me get this stripped and then we'll get some more paint on. Okay, so we've got all our primer done. I did it off camera because I have had all sorts of issues. I have now completely stripped the airbrush, given it a good clean out, and we're ready. The next paint I'll be using in it is Viejo. So yeah, all underneath, all done. So this gives us a chance to go in and check our seams. Now on the top here, everything's looking good. You can see all those raised panel lines that have been redone, they're all looking fine. We've got no seams there at all. We've got the scribed areas here looking good. Everything's looking hunky-dory. Bit of a flat spot there, but I'm not going to worry about that, because once we paint it and weather it, it's not going to show. We have got some dimples here where the Mr. Surfacer or the Sprugo, whatever, is sunk. I'm not going to worry about that because they are hinges anyway, and they're equal on both sides. So they kind of look, if not authentic, at least they're balanced. That line there is actually the edge of that door. It's not a seam. Got no seams at all here. No seams at all down here to worry about. This scribed access panel in there. I've got a little dimple in there, which I'm probably going to leave. Something I do need to sort out though is here. If we look, we've got a line, and we can see that the glue joint has actually come apart. So I'm going to have to glue that again. So I'm going to come in with my Tamiya Extra Thin, because it's like a nice wet glue. It's not what I call it, it's what I've just given the name of, a wet glue. Basically like your Extra Thin Quick Cement and your Mr. Hobby Cement SP, they all dry very quickly, but what you want here is something that's going to hang around and stay wet for a while, so that it gives it a chance to do its chemical reaction with the plastic and the other glue and the paint and everything, and let it get in there and sort of do some work, and let it start melting some plastic and getting it together. So I'm going to have to let that dry, and then we'll sand that, and hopefully it will be good enough when it's sanded to not have to worry about it again. Now I think I'm going to have to put a rubber band around there, but this paint probably isn't hard enough to withstand a rubber band yet, so we'll have to leave it as it is. So that's that done. So we'll let that dry, and then we can give that a bit of a sand. Okay, I'm back. Couple of seconds for you. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, a little bit husky. This is about 72 hours since I did the last little filming of this, and a couple of people have asked when the next sort of video is going to be up, and I was saying like tomorrow or the day after, and it's now like 3 days later, so I'm sorry about that. When I actually filmed this, the last bit of filming you saw me doing was saying about, you know, gluing this back together and everything. I put it down and suddenly got really funnily overcome and felt really dizzy and everything, and my temperature went through the ceiling, so I went to bed and had a good sleep. and it's like I've had the flu. It's like really, really hot and cold and everything. First thing I thought was, oh my God, you know, CV-19, but still had all my taste, no cough or anything. Really, really weird. So, and now it's gone. So it was sort of, I don't know, 48 hours and I feel fine again. So really, really weird. I don't know. But anyway, that's gone now and my eyes are all sorted, so we can get back to doing some modelling. So I've done this joint on here now, let the paint dry, rubbed it down and let the paint dry rather than have you be bored watching that. So as you can see, like we say, you know, it's worth taking your time. When you look at those Bombay doors and everything, we took the time and made sure we, you know, took some time to get them scribed nicely. There's a bit there which I'm not going to worry about, that little scratch there. And you can see that the seam work is all worth, you know, it's worth taking your time and getting the seams all sorted and nice and everything. So, and on this model we're going to have walkways down the back anyway, so I'm not really too worried about it. But basically it's worth taking your time and getting things nice. So it's come that time where we need to get the wings on. Now this model is a little bit different than most. One of the biggest problems with aircraft models, particularly those with larger wingspans, is the seam here. There is so much weight on this area here that, you know, the joint is under a lot of pressure. You need to get a really good joint, a really strong, solid joint, and then we can actually, you know, work at filling it, blending it, whatever. If you look at the Model Collect kit, you don't get very much of a good location at all. Italeri kits have got that wing spar that go in the middle, but the plastic's so soft and floppy that, you know, it's sort of a bit horrible. With these, the Revell monogram, when you think this is over 50 years old, it's really good what they've done. If you look in here, you can see this is just a scrap fuselage I've got. So this is basically that side. Okay, so basically what you've got is these two ribs in here. So when you come along with the opposite wing and you slide it through this slot, so you come along here and you slide this wing through that slot like that, what happens inside there is that end of that tab goes into those two grooves in there, like so. So basically it's held there and it's held there. So it's kind of held like this in the model, rather than just being held on a couple of little tabs or a little bit of surface area on there. So it's really nice the way they've done that. I wish other manufacturers would take note. You know, still today we get these big kits with great big wings that have no real surface contact. So the obvious thing you do there is start adding brass rods. So what I'm doing here is I'm scraping out the joint to make sure that our joint is at least flat and it's not convex. When you're gluing, this area here is flat, so obviously if you're looking down the front and the wing was kind of convex shape, so it was kind of exaggerated this shape, obviously you'd only get a point of contact down the center. So we need to make sure we've got no seams sticking out in the middle and there's nothing that is going to cause us any issues at all with the fit. So make sure there's no lumps and bumps, no bits of swarf or plastic or whatever hanging around, nothing at all that's going to prevent us having a really nice fit. Now, one of the good things of this aircraft, it's got wing wheels, so we're going to have wheels on the end which are going to help it support. Obviously we haven't got those on yet, so basically we're going to slot that in there and we'll see how it fits. And we're looking for a really nice joint on the top, obviously. Now we don't have much rock, okay, which is a good thing. Whoops. And because it's got such a swept wing, the wing always wants to fall backwards. And we've got a lovely joint on the underside. So just blow off this plastic that's on here. And the first thing I'm going to do is get some super glue on here to hold it in place. Now I wouldn't normally use super glue, but I'm only using super glue where the actual, I'm going to scrape away some of this paint on here just to help with the weld action of the glue. It will work a lot better with no paint. It doesn't really matter in areas where there's no stress or whatever, but on things like this and fuselage halves and stuff like that, I do tend to remove remove the paint where I can. And the other thing we want to do with this is make sure we've got the starboard wing fitting nicely as well, because once we've got one wing on, holding it to make it less, you know, it's going to be quite cumbersome holding it in one place, or holding it and trying to do this with the other wing hanging off the bottom of the model, especially if I want to do it on camera. This is where the problem's going to start now, guys, is doing this on camera is going to be very, very difficult. I'm going to have to get my tripod in, I think, and have the camera in a different place. So get that out of the way, and we'll just do this wing the same as we did the other one. Just scrape these joints. This is for the beginners out there. You can see there's some lumps and bumps on there. You could hear as I stroke the knife across, you could hear them. Just make sure we get rid of all those lumps and bumps and bits that might affect the wing's fit. Right. Okay, and we're just going to check that fits nicely in there. And it does. We do have a bit of a gap. I don't know if you're going to see this. Let me stand up and see what the camera can see, just so I can show you beginners out of what you should be looking for. I don't know if you can see this. I need a light. If I can put a light behind it. There's one I prepared earlier. Now you can see as I slide this across, you can see that if I pull this apart, you'll see the light behind it. You can see we've got, it's contacting around here. We dim the light from the top. Okay, you can see it's contacting around here. As I slide it forward, we've got a gap here. We've got a gap at the back. So obviously we've got this area here is bulged out. So what I'm going to do is look at what's going on and see what's actually making it stick away. So I'm going to get a nice coarse sanding stick, which I know is flat, and sand this over this wing root. It looks like we had something there, look. What we can do if we want to is come with a pencil. Don't use a magic marker. We all know the rules by now. I keep saying it time and time again. And then we can go across. And you can see where I'm sanding. You can see it's not touching it there or there. So it's actually, I thought it was going to be the wing, but it's actually the fuselage that wasn't flat. So you can just sand away like that, and I'm just going to check the other side as well. That side isn't flat either, so we'll check it. That's probably due to the old moulds, but let's have a look and see how that fits now. That looks better. So if I turn the light off again, we can get the light behind it. You can see it's constant now all the way across, so I can push it together. Now we've got a gap all the way along, which means that we could well have a lump here holding this apart, so we can just afford to cut some of that section away there, or it means we've got a bit flash or something on there. So we'll try that in there again. And now you can see what I mean. If I'd have just got on and glued the other wing in, we would now be doing this with the other wing in place, and it would make it a nightmare. Let me turn the light off again for you. Let's see what we see now. Okay, so it does seem to be that it's these bits here that are causing us a problem. So I'm just going to remove some material from them. That looks better. Let's see how that looks. Nope, we've still got a gap. Now if I really push it together, I can pretty much close that gap up. That you can see hardly anything through there now. So I'm happy with that. Right, so let's get these wings glued on. Plastic everywhere. So I get these wings glued on. Now I'm going to do this one first because it's this one's more of a problem fit, I think. Let me just get it cleaned up a second. Okay, so we're ready to go. One thing I have done, I've removed the tortoise feet, the masking tape from the undercarriage legs, so I can make sure that I'm sort of all level and everything when we get the wings on. So I want to make sure the wings are sort of sitting equal heights off the ground when the glue sets. What I'm going to have to do here is glue this up together now, and then I'm going to have to put some blocks or something under the wings and then leave it for like 24 hours. So it's going to be my benches out of action just to let the initial application of glue go off, because it's such a big, heavily loaded, heavily stressed joint. So what we're going to do now is glue these wings on. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use super glue on the ends of these wing spars here, not wing spars, these flange joints, should I say, and I'm going to use some of this initially on the wing, and I'm going to run some liquid glue in there as well. So what I want to do, this one tends to stay and this one falls out as soon as you look at it. So I'm going to glue this one first. So I'm just going to put some super glue on here, and this is quite old, this super glue, so it takes an age to set, so I'm not really worried about it going off. And I'm going to put some of this contactor. Oh, it's bloody blocked up again. It's one of the biggest problems with this bloody stuff. Just use it without the metal shaft. And I don't really want to get so much on that it's all oozing out, but I want to make sure I've got some plastic glue so we're welding. I don't like using super glue on heavily stressed joints. It does tend to crack. So we've got the super glue on the ends there, and that's going to go into those slots in the opposite fuselage half. So we can just push that in like that. There we go. I've got glue oozing out on the top, which I really didn't want. So that one will stay there now like that, and then we'll do the same on this wing here. So we'll get some super glue on here. Good old plenty of super glue on and let it really go to town and do its thing. And then we're going to put some of this glue on here, too much in there. Just let that run down. It's one of the problems with these bloody contactor bottles. They've got that stupid little metal tube on them. I've just cleaned it out with a cigarette lighter, which I wouldn't recommend you do at home because it makes it into a little flamethrower. But let's get this on as quick as we can without making any mess. Look at the mess I'm making on there now. Get that in there like that, and then the fuselage should come back to sitting up even. Now I'm looking at it now, I've got the wooden desk either side of me, so I'm just going to slide the whole thing across. Let's get the top back on these glues so you don't go spilling it and making a mess anywhere. So I'm going to use the same wood, same desk, same distance apart. So basically I'm going to hold that wing up there, and it looks like if I get one of my zebra sanding sponges, not zebra, Infini should I say, it looks like that's somewhere handy. We want 2 under there. Let's go with that one. I realise you can't see what I'm doing off camera. As you can see, this wing just wants to come off as soon as you look at it. I'm just going to look at it nose on. I'm happy with the way that looks because we're probably going to get some sag anyway. Now, something I do want to do is look at the underside. And just check we've got some glue down there. What I think I'll do is take this out of here and just have the one sanding sponge, and that might be okay. Nope, it still needs to come up a touch, so we'll put so I've got a sanding sponge now and a matador stick on each side under the wing tanks. So let's just look at it nose on, see how that looks. Yeah, I'm happy with that. We've got a bit of a gap here, but we don't have a gap on this side, so I'm kind of reluctant to go anymore. Maybe just one more matador stick on each side. Okay, and then what we can do is come along with a real strong, really wet, remember I said about wet glues, something like the SP is great, it'll go in there and it'll dry quickly, but this one, the Mr. Cement S, is a real good wet glue, and it's got quite a big brush, so you can kind of flood it in there and let it do its thing. Not really worried too much about marking the surface now, because we're going to be doing some filler work and everything to get this joint all sorted. You can see it, the capillary action's really pulling it in there. And this will give it a really good weld action onto the fuselage, and the super glue will deal with the other side, or the joint where it's meeting the other side. Okay, so put the cap back on that one. See, the fit on that one there is absolutely perfect. This one's not so good. If I give it a little push, it's better. I wonder if I put some more glue in there. If there's a bit of plastic swarf or something in there that's holding it apart, this will dissolve it. If it was solid, it wouldn't go together so easily with a little push. See when I push it how easy it's going together, the glue's all losing out, so just let it keep doing that, and whatever's in there will get dissolved. Okay, we'll put some more glue in the other side. I'll tell you what guys, we're nearly done. This will be, the next video is going to be all about sorting out this wing joint, which isn't going to be much work at all. It's going to be nothing like as much work as that Rodin C141 I did. Plenty in there. I'm just going to keep flooding it in there till it won't take any more. It's probably all running out the bottom down the sides of the fuselage, eh? Just let it really get in there and do its thing. was quite pissed off the other day. I don't know if you've seen it in the news, guys, if you're in the UK. We had a B-52 come into Fairford with a engine problem. It's only running on 7 engines. Big thing in the paper about it. My mum sent me a link to it. Oh my God, you know, B-52 had to fly on 7 engines circling over Gloucester. Oh dear. Christ almighty, what's wrong with them? Bloody thing could fly from here to back to here on 7 engines. Jesus. Yeah, made a big thing about it. But my friend sent me a text and said that there was a B-52 circling. I can't remember what day it was. I think it was Wednesday, wasn't it, or something? And obviously I was feeling quite rough. I didn't even want to go outside, but it was a cloudy, wet, miserable shit day anyway, so I couldn't go and look out the window anyway. Couldn't see the aircraft, couldn't even hear it, so it couldn't have been that close. So there we go. So that, my friends, is that. So I don't know how long this video's been, because it's taken me like 3 days to make it. So there we go. So that's part 27. Part 28 is going to be all about dealing with this wing joint, but it's going to be, I'm going to leave this at least 24 hours here to set, and then I'm going to put it somewhere else to set for another sort of 24 hours or even 48 hours, because I want this to be absolutely solid before I start playing with it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. As you can see, we're really coming together now, and just having the fuselage painted black, I think it makes a hell of a difference to the overall look of the model, and really chuffed with it. So thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. I've got some more Titanic stuff coming which you'll all be interested in. I'm also considering, if you are into Titanic, I'm considering making ship's whistles. Let me know if you're interested. I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.